Hello, my name is Gerrit and I'm a co-founder at Heisenware. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to build this dashboard that you can see here, consisting just out of 5 functions, some modifiers, a couple of front-end widgets. And what you get is a full machine dashboard that runs on a smartphone, but also on a computer, on a web application. It shows the produced parts. You can define a target quantity, and according to that target quantity, the ready at date will be adjusted, and it also shows a historic production of the last 8 hours. All right, let's start. We jump into the app manager, and here we create a new app with the plus and just call it machine dashboard, adding also the Heisenware icon here as the image, or as the icon for this app. And then I click Start App Builder to open the app builder where we can start building. So very first step, we will add this beautiful machine here, the Acura 65, which is a CNC milling machine from the company Hedelius, one of our customers. And I'm also adding a logo from Heisenware here. And as you can see, it works very much like PowerPoint. You can easily adjust everything according to your wishes. So now let's start to gather some data. For that, I'm using a counter that is already running inside this Heisenware account. So we don't need a real machine. I don't have a real machine. That's why I'm using the counter here. It's a parts counter, which I'm incrementing every now and then. And with the get count function, we can just, get the count. Right now, it's exactly 500, 501, and so on and so forth. And in order to visualize that data point, we just pick a value box in this case. There you go. I adjust it to be shown on full width, increase the size a bit, double click, and then I'm adding a suffix saying parts reduced. Font size will be 24, let's say, and the font weight will be bold. There you go. And now I can drag and drop the value onto that value box. And then I pick value as the thing that I want to use here, and then I define the trigger element with a right click to be triggered every 10 seconds. Now we get the count every 10 seconds and show it in our dashboard. As the next step, we want to define the target quantity. For that, I'm using a form widget, which is an input widget. And again, I can do right click, use full width, double click, and then I change it from a text box to be a slider and call it target quantity. And the slider is a minimum of 1,000, let's say, and a maximum of 5,000. Of course, this can be something that is dynamically filled from somewhere else. However, in our example, we stay with these numbers. And then I can also put a label in order to show it like this. And then I can simply adjust the target quantity. And in order to get the target quantity into our logic, I take a memory function, select the form, connect the memory, pick form data, adding a modifier here. And the default for me is JSON-outer. And I can just say target quantity in order to extract the value out of this key. There you go. Right? Without it, it would look like this. Key value pair, an object, but I'm just interested in the actual value. Okay, so that's the second data point we need, and now let's move on. The last value we need is the number of parts manufactured on average per hour. And for that, I look into our time series where I'm already recording each manufactured part in a time series, which is called parts. So for that, I'm just using a read function. The bucket is D that I'm using, and the measurement is called parts. And I can just trigger it manually, and we see all the values, what is always a timestamp and a value. So, and now I want to look 8 hours at the past, let's say one shift. So I define the start as -8 hours, trigger it, and as you can see now, the start date is 8 hours ago. And we have only roughly 300 entries left in our array. And now in order to calculate the average per hour, we have to know what's the last value or the first value, and then calculate the last minus the first value, and then divide it by the number of hours. And I have a modifier prepared for that, which I'm just copy and pasting. It looks like this. So this is the last value of our array. This is the first one, and then we divide by 8. And the result is 38 something parts produced per hour on average. In order to do some calculations with these 3 numbers, we will now use a combine function, which is very useful for that kind of use case. So we drag and drop a combine function from the shortcuts here, and then we connect the get count to the first input, the target quantity as the second input, and then we need another input with the plus for the average number of produced parts. And I just see that I also need to define a trigger element here, let's say every 10 seconds. And then we have to define when the combine is triggered. We want it to be triggered whenever any of the input arguments is updated. So I just drag and drop them onto the trigger, all 3 of them. I can show you what happens. Let me unfold this. So move the target quantity a bit. You see, we always get a fresh result, an array with all the 3 numbers. So what I do first is add another modifier and copy and paste what I have prepared. So it basically says, take the entry 1 and subtract the entry 0 and divide it by the entry 2. And what happens is this number means there's 39 hours more needed in order to manufacture the missing parts. If I put it higher, the number will be higher, and smaller, it will be smaller. This is something I could already use in my dashboard. However, I want to show a date. When do we reach the target quantity? So I'm adding another modifier. This is something you have to do. You have to now transform the 17 hours into milliseconds, into basically now, what is the time now, plus the milliseconds of these 17 hours results in something in the future. And in order to now show it again as a date, we will use another modifier and use the JSONata function from millis this time, and also do some adjustments for the way we express the data. And in the end, you will get something like this. It says December 22 at roughly 2 p.m. This order will be finished, and I show you with the test mode that this date or this time increases once we have to manufacture more, and the other way around. Very logical, I think. And one hint, you could put all these 3 calculations, of course, into one modifier. However, I sometimes like it better to do it like this, so you really know what's going on and understand what's going on. Okay, so there's our final number. And this is the number we will also want to visualize in our front end. So I copy and paste the value box here and just remove the suffix. Connect the date to it, pick the value again, and then I make it a bit smaller, maybe half the size. And then adding a text box right here. And that says order ready at. There you go. Yeah, roughly in the middle. Good. So now we only want to add the historic data. As you remember from our original dashboard, there's also a chart shown. So for that, I need another read function in order to read the data. So I can basically copy and paste this read function with just clicking on duplicate here. And configure it the way I want it to be configured. And this time I stay with 8 hours in the past, but I aggregate with every 15 minutes. So we just get a value every 15 minutes, which is enough. So we don't have to read so many values from our InfluxDB. So there you go. It's way less. Obviously, I can delete the modifier here. And then I pick a chart, put it here. And again, I can say full width for the chart, maybe a bit bigger, and connect the data. In this case, I have to adjust a little bit. The series are called parts, and the value field is the actual value. There you go. You see it within the 8 hours, we have manufactured a lot until there was a stop, something happened, and now we're producing again. So that's basically what you can see here. And I can customize more. I can change the color of the chart too, and so on and so forth. the last step is adjusting our laptop view. Also disable the tablet view, and now I'm adjusting the laptop view. I can even make it bigger, and with auto scaling you have always the best fit here. Yeah, I can use bigger logos and stuff. And from here it works very much like PowerPoint or any kind of other tool that you are using. And of course I have way more space for the historic data. There you go. Start the test mode. Now date increases with the target quantity increasing. Okay, now I'm pretty happy, so I can simply deploy. And there is my app, it's already deployed. I just click the link. And here's my machine dashboard. I can adjust the target quantity, and I see historic data over the last 8 hours coming from 223 to roughly 513 parts now. And as we can see here, there was a long period of time where nothing happened, or not too much happened actually. So we can investigate further. And if you like, you can also install the app with just a click on install, and then it opens still in the browser, but without most of the browser controls. And you can use it like this and even have it installed on your computer, because this is all progressive web apps. This is it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or feedback, please let me know, and yeah, see you next time. Bye-bye.